Hi there, everyone, and welcome back to the Vintage Sewing Machine Garage YouTube channel. Today, I am going to show you a machine that I have never put on the channel because I've never had one to restore. Some of you, when you see this machine, will recognize it and know what it is. Some of you will not. And I just think it's kind of interesting that it's only taking 10 years, in fact, 12 years of restoring machines. I've never worked on one, and 10 years of this channel. We're about to go into our 11th year, and I have never shown a machine of this model on the channel. Now, those of you who notice, you may look at this carry case and you might recognize it, but I thought it would be fun to show this machine. I just got it. It was given to me actually by one of my clients who has both purchased machines from me and also finds other machines and brings them to me. And they were really kind enough to it wasn't working right. They weren't interested in it, and they said, see if you can do something with it. And I said, well, sure. And I was very, very grateful to get this. So I'm going to raise the lid on the cover and ask you, what do you see here? Now, if this machine does not make sense to you in terms of the brand, maybe you've never seen the brand is Spartan. Now, I'm going to move the camera a little closer, and I want you to look really close. I mean, really close, okay? The first thing you'll notice is this machine has been covered in, really well for a long time. That paint is gorgeous. I mean, it's so shiny, it almost makes you wonder if anyone ever did any sewing on it. I'm sure someone did some. And it has a foot pedal. There's a clue. Some of you might recognize that style of foot pedal right there. Let's talk about what it has. Other than its little name, it is black and it has speed control. And it's a little stiff, so I'm not going to push it. It's been sitting a while. But it has back tack, and it has a bobbin winder, and of course it has its tension assembly here on the left front side, but that's not unusual. And so I'm wondering if any of you have an idea what this is. Who made this machine? Where was it made? And why? That is something I definitely wanted to share with you. Well, some of you again know what company made this machine, and it might look familiar to you. And if it does, then you guessed correctly. And put it down there in the comments if you would. And if you're not sure and you've never seen this machine before, don't feel bad because I've seen these machines online. I knew about them, but I've never actually gotten one to restore. I don't believe the machine is rare. No, it's not rare, but it's not always talked about. In fact, it may be one of the most underappreciated machines out there. Occasionally, I talk about machines such as that. So, what am I going to show you? I'm actually going to show you what this machine is, because I'm going to show you another sewing machine that is sitting right behind this one, and I will relocate this machine, hopefully without creating a mess. And all I need to do is move this one a little to the right. And what you see behind there is, of course, the Singer 99 that I had been working on. This was the Singer 99 that you may have been following along with, because it's like a tale of two machines. One was very babied and probably not used very much, and this other one was used, and its motor was dry. In fact, I'm not done with this little machine here on the left. And of course, the machine that you see On the left, of course, is the venerable Singer 99. This particular one is 99K. The Singer 99, of course, being the 3/4 size version of the Singer 66. Both of these models that are related were built for decades. They were built in more than one Singer factory. The 99Ks were built in Singer's factory in Scotland, Kilbowie, Clydebank. That's what the K stands for, Kilbowie. Those of you from Scotland, please correct me if I'm not pronouncing that word correctly. And the Singer 99 would be produced again for many decades. It is a tried and true machine. It's a fantastic machine, and it is one of the simplest machines to learn on. A good friend of mine who had never used a sewing machine got a restored 99K for a housewarming gift. Now, back to the original question. What has the Singer 99K got to do with a Spartan? Well, as it turns out, it's the same. It is literally the same machine. Now, there were Singer 99s that were made in Canada. There were Singer 99s that were made in New Jersey, along with, of course, the Scottish factory. This was a very popular machine. And, well, why is there something called the Spartan? If you guessed correctly that the Spartan was made by Singer, you are correct, because no one back in the day would have dared copy Singer this closely, because if they had, they might have gotten sued. Later, of course, Japanese companies would make copies and improved copies of a number of Singer machines, but those patents had expired. But when the Spartan, you see the Spartan here, what is the famous line in Shakespeare, a rose by any other name? So imagine you are trying to plan you're part of the strategy team at Singer, or whatever they called it back then, and Singer is it's a very well-known brand. It is not a cheap brand by any means, and basically when you go into a Singer dealership, you basically are looking at different models, and the price you pay is based on the model. Is it a straight stitch machine like the 99K? And then later, if they would add more features to different models, you paid for features. You also paid for cabinets. And some machines brought more money. The Singer 201 was a wider machine, and of course, if it was a newer design, Singer kept a lot of the old models in production, even when they brought out new models. And so the pricing was very tiered, lots of options for customers, but sometimes, well, let's just say Singer had to react to competition. In addition to the giant company, the White Sewing Machine Corporation, that was competing against Singer at independent dealers that sold white machines, they also were making all of those Kenmore rotaries for the Sears company. So Singer was out there having to, they were the biggest player, but they had competition. And sometimes, especially once we get into the late 40s, early 50s, and certainly well into the 1950s, you see even more competition, because now the Japanese manufacturers are coming in with much cheaper labor costs and some pretty nice machines. Not every single thing about a Japanese machine was quite the same level of quality, but I would say 90% of it, in terms of machining quality for the drivetrain components, certainly. And Singer was, wow, they were getting price pressure. So their dealers would go to the Singer company and say, hey, we're losing customers out to these department stores who are selling these imports. What can you do for us? And the Spartan was the answer. Now, the Spartan, as far as I'm aware, did not have fewer features or more features than the Singer 99. And granted, the Singer 99 would actually, because it was in production so long, originally it didn't even have a stitch lever. You just had a knob and there was no reverse. But here you see you have stitch length numbers control, and then you have back tacking. You simply take the lever all the way up and you can go into reverse. And that's essentially what you're looking at, the Singer 99. The Spartan has the same features. And now it says back tack here, and it says 192K at the top. We'll have to investigate that 192. Maybe that was the model number. I'm not quite. I have to go and investigate that because I've never noticed that before. But Spartan, the word Spartan has different meanings in the English language. It can mean, sparse or utilitarian, or it can also mean strong and powerful in the Greek mythological context. So it's fascinating to look at what is essentially the same machine. But Singer did not want to lower the prices of their Singer branded machines because, of course, they were, they didn't want to cheapen is a really loaded term here. They didn't want to dilute the value of the Singer brand, so they said, well, we'll have Spartan. And those of you who bought automobiles know that in the car industry, they will often do this. They'll have the chassis and a lot of the basic components of a car, and then they'll have the fancy version, which they charge more for. And let's just take a look. We'll actually look at both of these. Just a look to see what, and again, I have yet to do anything to this Spartan. I literally have saved, being very careful not to scratch this gorgeous paint. My God, it is really just, it's incredible. It really is incredible. And as I'm untangling this cord here, what I'm wanting to do is take a look at the bed of the machine. Because as I mentioned to you all a number of occasions, the paint finishes that were used on many sewing machine brands, including Singer, these lovely, deep, glossy black finishes are incredible, but they're also somewhat vulnerable. They're not, they had this deep black paint, and then they would often apply a clear coat, almost always, and they would apply the clear coat normally to protect decals. Well, this machine only has this. It has the decal here. It says Spartan, and then if I tilt the machine toward you, look what it says above. It says the Singer Manufacturing Company, made in Great Britain. So they did put Singer on there, but it's a much smaller mentioning of that name. But look at this paint. I mean, I'm going to have to clean it to be sure. And I think I see, that looks like, I don't know. Like I said, I'm literally, I haven't even looked at the bed. But I'm telling you, so far, I don't want to make assumptions here, count the chickens before they hatch. I'm not seeing any scratches. This might be a record, guys. This might be the only machine I've ever had, or one of the only, that is almost, and again, I have to check it out. There might be some chips or little nicks somewhere, but this is one of the most perfect paint finishes I've ever seen. Now, I've seen beautiful Singers as well. The paint on this 99 didn't fare so well, but again, it got a lot more use. You can see some hazing in this light. I've got some good light here. If you look closely at the bed, you'll see there's some hazing. The paint is still okay, but the clear coat has some crackle. When I say crackle and hazing, I'm talking about very fine little cracks in the clear coat. Still perfectly fine, and of course I had to I put some of that lanolin cleaner, that hand cleaner cream to remove a lot of its filth. I believe that the Singer 99K, which I recently was able to rescue its motor, which was not a happy motor because it was dry of all grease lubrication. I have no doubt, that the Singer is going to sew beautifully again. Now, one other thing to note here: when the Singer 99K was produced, both of these were made in Great Britain, and you'll notice that you have your bobbin plate and your needle plate, and they're smooth, they're nickel plated, but there's no markings. But now let's look at the Spartan. So the Spartan has what we would often see later in the successor or the descendant of the Singer 99, which is the Singer 185K. And those machines you often see in these green carry cases. In fact, for some of you, you may have thought it was a 185K hiding here. And when I tilt it toward you, you will see, you'll notice that the plate is, it's either aluminum, and I'll test it with the magnet. It's either aluminum or it's simply a different kind of finish to the steel. And just like with the 185Ks, which I believe have a very similar bobbin and needle plate, but look, now you have your seam measures here, right, for your seam allowances. So this was part of Singer's responding to customers said, you know, I'm really tired of putting tape on the bed of my machine to know where my seam allowance is when I'm sewing. So there you go, everyone. That little mystery for those of you who have seen a Spartan and thought it was another company or maybe a Japanese copy, which would not be surprising. Nope. It's one of the only sewing machines that I'm aware of that the Singer company made that they did not brand as Singer. If you have a Spartan or have seen one or have anything to say about it, please put your comments down below and let me know what you think. It really should sew the same as a 99 because it is a 99 by any other name. I sure appreciate all of you watching and following along as the channel is relaunched. If you have benefited in any way from this channel, please consider donating. You can hit the link to buy me a coffee and make a donation of your choice. But whatever you do, take care of your machines and keep watching as we are headed into our next decade, hopefully, of more information about how to maintain, take care of, and rescue sleepy vintage sewing machines. See you soon, everyone.